Well, of course, to the U.S. now we focus. A number of notable races are taking place today in the American midterm elections. Voters there are voting for all 435 seats in the House of Representatives, and 35 of the 100 Senate seats are up for grabs. Those, of course, are the two bodies that make up the houses of Congress. Governors are also being chosen in 36 out of 50 states. Our SABC correspondent Sherwin Bryce-Pease is at the polling stations and has been speaking to voters who've been casting their ballots at a voting station in Harlem in New York. Let's take a listen to what they've been saying.
It seems like our country's very divided right now. I hope it binds us together and brings some happiness and hope that we are more similar than we are different.
I have kids, and I think it's all about their future and our future. So it's all about the kids' future.
Voting is important, like it's necessary. It's a right that we all have, and I think this one is especially important because we need to get certain people out and we need our voices heard.
Little change happens one person at a time, so that's why I'm out here, and I hope everyone else votes too.
Well, our SABC U.S. correspondent Sherwin Bryce-Pease joins us now from New York. Sherwin, good evening to you. I mean, it's been incredible to watch your coverage in the last couple of days. You know, in South Africa, we have a certain idea of America. We think it's urbanized. It's what we see on television. But many of the people that are going to be participating in these elections come from all over the country, particularly, of course, in those areas dominated by Donald Trump's Republican Party.
It's an excellent point, and we don't talk enough about rural America. You know, I think we tend to focus on the bright lights of New York and Miami and Los Angeles and maybe San Francisco, Chicago in the middle, but we don't really talk about Louisville, Kentucky, or North Dakota or South Dakota and what might be happening in the rural parts and what's important to those rural people. They're not as progressive as perhaps city folk like you and me, Bongani, and so that therein lies the challenge for a progressive Democrats running in this election as opposed to their conservative counterparts. And you correctly point out that in 2016, Donald Trump ran the map, particularly in those central states, in those Midwestern states, where you have a number of Democratic incumbent senators facing an uphill battle. You think of an incumbent Democrat in North Dakota, in Indiana, in Missouri. You're seeing them try to compete in Texas, in Nevada, and in Arizona, where the incumbent there, a Republican, Jeff Flake, is stepping aside, and of course John McCain, the late senator, passing away there. But that, there's been a Republican replacement named by the governor, so that's an election that will come in the future. But it really is stacked against Democrats in terms of the Senate, although a slightly different picture, Bongani, because cities have been spreading out into the suburbs, and there is where the Democrats have a possible female tide assisting them, particularly college-educated white voters, white women in particular. In terms of these rural states, it's the suburbs that are going to make the day if Democrats are going to succeed today.
Well, we've been talking for the last couple of days about this being a kind of referendum on Donald Trump. He's told voters, in fact, to look at this election as if he were on the ballot. Of course, he's not, because it's not a presidential election. Race has been a touch point, particularly, of course, the issue of immigration. Is Trump's strategy going to pay out for him?
Well, it's a strategy that worked very well for him in 2016. You know, when we went into election night in November of 2016, Hillary Clinton had an almost 90% chance in terms of the pollsters of winning this election. But it's this message of Donald Trump as it relates to immigration, as certainly in this election, this caravan invasion. You've seen very controversial, some have said racist ads being put out by the Trump campaign for 2020, what people are calling a real attempt by this administration and this candidate, this president, at fear-mongering. It's people in this country are not voting necessarily on issues. They're voting in terms of emotionally, in terms of the candidates that they like, but also the race baiting and the fear-mongering that we've seen, certainly from candidates on the right. So it's a strategy that worked well for him in 2016. Remember, one of his main themes throughout that election campaign was build the wall, and let's keep them out. And that is something he has reminded his constituents about. And let's not underestimate the support that President Donald Trump has, Bongani. It's been a solid 40%. You'll remember as a candidate, he famously said he could kill someone on Fifth Avenue outside Trump Towers and they'd still vote for him. And I think to a certain extent that has been reflected in the consistency of his support. He might not be on the ballot today, but I can assure you that a number of the voters that we spoke to here in New York, which is blue country, let's put that out there, it's blue country, they are voting because this is a president that they do not want to see. They want to see an element of government being able to check the power of this president. They control, the Republicans do, all three spheres of government, the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. What Democrats hope to achieve today is to at least have some check by taking the House.
Right, it is in a sense, I should say, Sherwin, a battle for the soul of America. You refer there to this offensive ad, and we've got a clip of it, and I do want to let our viewers know that it does contain discriminatory, racist, offensive language. Please be advised as we play it. But I think it's important for us to show it so that people have a sense of exactly the kind of toxicity that the Republicans have allowed Trump to run in their name. So we'll play the clip a little bit now, and as we wrap up our conversation, I want you to comment how on earth this is possible in the land of the free. Let's take a look.
The 7,000 migrant caravan crossing Mexico, marching toward our border. Dangerous illegal criminals like cop killer Luis Bracamontes don't care about our laws. America cannot allow this invasion. The migrant caravan must be stopped. President Trump and his allies will protect our border and keep our families safe. America's future depends on you. Stop the caravan. Vote Republican.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Right, Donald Trump approved that message, and very quickly, Sherwin, as we wrap up this conversation, many of us looking at America, it's a different country to what we know, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you correctly point out that it's known as the land of the free, but I would argue that it's the land of the divided. And I tell you, there are many Americans that are offended by that ad, and many of the television networks in this country where this ad was positioned for airtime have pulled the ad and refused to play it because they've said it's racist. The president himself was asked about this, and whether he felt this racial division that he's pushing out there was okay. And he said, well, I get asked tough questions all the time. And he was very dismissive of the journalist's question. Look, I think at the end of the day, as President Barack Obama pointed out, this is a vote about the character of this country. This is about decency. This is about decent politics. And many people in this country do not feel that Donald Trump is a fitting representation of American values. Of course, his supporters would disagree, and therein lies the conundrum. And that's why people are voting today, Bongani.
All right, we'll leave it there with our U.S. correspondent, Sherwin Bryce-Pease, giving us the latest update from New York City. But we're staying with the U.S. elections. We now cross over to